In this video, I am going to show you how to create and put your modified maps into your story map. So you have a modified map here for the land use in the commons, and then there's also a modified map required here for water in the commons. So we're going to look at how to do this. A quick tip, now that we've started building out our story maps and we have a lot of elements or features in here, you might find that you need to rearrange a couple of your elements. You don't like the way they're organized, and that is really easy to do. When you hover over an element, you'll see these 6 little dots, and it doesn't matter what type of element it is, you'll find those dots somewhere in there. Even with the text box, I have those elements. So let's say I want to reorganize my pie chart and my watershed map. I can easily grab this, click, and drag my element up or down, and then place it where I want it to show up. And it's that easy. Okay, so we want to add a map to our water in the commons. And so I'm going to go underneath my watershed map, and I'm going to add it here. Again, anytime you add an element, you just click on the plus sign. And this time we're actually going to click on map. And first time using a map, if you haven't created a map before, you should see a little button down here. It's this color, and it says, I think, create an express map. So you can either click that button or you can click New Express Map up here in the corner. And initially, you will probably get a dialog box that introduces you to the features and things that you can do with this part of the ArcGIS story map. You can go ahead and just skip that, close it, or if you want to take the time and look through it, that's perfectly fine. I'm going to hit on some of the things that you need to know right now. So this is called our base map, and over on the left-hand side we have our layers, things that we add to our base map, and then the settings for our base map and some other things, okay? So one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to change my base map. This grayscale works for some applications, but for what we're doing, it is going to be easier for us if we click on this select base map options and use some form of imagery or satellite map. And I'm going to go ahead and do the hybrid of imagery and labels. I can close this, and now you can see I show more of the topography. And so I'm going to zoom into our location. I can double click the map to zoom to a location. Once you start editing your map, that gets a little more difficult. And so you can also use the plus and minus symbols here to zoom in. And anytime you are looking for our school on a map, some landmarks are Boardman Lake. If you go west of Boardman Lake or to the left, you're going to hit Division Street here, and you can see all the city blocks in here. So once we get into this big green patch, we know we're getting close to the school because this is the other world. This is all marshes down here. And then the next thing I look for is the building across the street, which is really easy to identify. There's also the commons buildings laid out here. If we zoom in really closely here, this little tiny building here is Spanglish. Okay, and this is the Mercado. So I need to go south a little bit to get to the school, and here we are. So the first thing I'm going to do here, the purpose of this map is to really show where the water exists in our region in a way that is not always apparent or obvious on maps. And I think you guys have seen that all of the little creeks, the tributaries that run through the Commons hiking area, there's no creeks show up on any map that I've seen here. So I'm going to show you 2 different features that we'll use. You're more than welcome to play around with these. Actually, 3 features. There is a shape feature if I want to draw an area. There are 2 options for the line feature. You have a freehand draw or a line where you draw from point to point to point, which I find is a little easier to control. And then there is a point feature where you're dropping a pin if you want to just note a specific point. So I'm going to show each one of these. The first one I'll do is my area. And don't be afraid to, try it. And if it doesn't work, if you don't like the way it looks, go ahead and delete it. So the other world is here, and I'm actually going to start my shape. And I'm just going to kind of trace along these roads because that's pretty much where, and I can make close dots to get around corners. And then when I have straight lines, so I've made a mistake already. I'm going to go ahead and close this shape out. If I double click it, it closes that shape. I really didn't want to get the parking lot in here, so I'm going to undo that. I'm going to do my shape again, and this time I will try not to do this shape real quick, and I think I'll just take it to here. We'll go around the parking lot, follow this tree line here, and then close my shape there. Okay, so now I've created my shape of the other world, and when I want to move my map around, I just make sure that I'm on the select tool so I can kind of click and grab this. Now I want to color this a different color because I don't want to use red. You're more than welcome to use red. So I'm going to click on that feature. So I went to layers, and I clicked on the feature, and down here it says style, and I'm just going to use a lighter blue to show the marsh areas. And then I'm going to call this, I'm just going to give this the name wetland. Okay, so you've got to use some sort of naming that lets us know that this is a wet area. You could also use marsh. Okay. And click done when you're finished with that. And so now that feature shows up here. And if I go back to settings, you can see that I have the option of turning on a legend. And so what that does is it adds the features that I'm adding in my layers to my map now. Okay, so I'm going to go back to layers. This time I'm going to add a point feature, and I'm just going to do a real simple sketch. I'm not going to draw the whole creek, but I'm going to draw the segment of the creek that kind of reaches up in this region past the school and down here into the other land. So I'm going to use, like I said, the line with points because that just makes it a little bit easier to control where you're going. And so I'm going to start here behind the school with a kind of straight line that curves around here. The creek kind of goes through here. And right now I'm just playing a guessing game as to where the creek goes. And I'm just going to maybe go up to this point. I'm going to double click that to close it. And again, I don't really want my line to be red. This time I'm going to choose a dark blue for my creek. And I'll just call this tributary 1. So when you have multiple creeks feeding into another creek or a river, we call those tributaries. And since this doesn't really have a name, it's part of Kids Creek, I'm just calling it tributary 1. Now, if I wanted to extend this down here, I can just continue my line. I can do this again, and I go under the bridge, come through here, we cross the road, and then we go straight here. Remember, this creek has been across the road there. This creek has been shaped by humans in the past, and so you can see it kind of squiggles around here, and I'm just going to stop at the edge, double click to stop it. And then I'm going to go ahead and color this branch. And, we'll call this one Other World Tributary. Okay. And if we want to stick with school names, I can come in here and on my first branch here, I can call this Rope Swing Tributary. That way I can throw some of our school names in there. The previous time I named this, I didn't click the done button, and so it didn't save that. And I spelled rope wrong, so I can come back in here. If I just click on it, I can edit it, click done again, and there you have that line feature, okay? So I've got lines, I've got shapes, and then the last thing I'm going to do is a point feature. And I'm going to use this pin, and I'm going to drop a pin right where our springs are located. So I put a pin there, and I'm going to give this a blue color also. And I'm going to call this, we've been calling this the upper elevation spring. Okay, and click done. And then I'm going to add another point feature right about here is where and I might leave this one a different color to indicate that it's kind of a human-made region, so that there's human impact here. So I'm going to use this, I'm going to use an orange color for that one. And then I'm going to call this lower elevation spring, and then I'm going to add wellhead, because this is where we have that concrete block feature, but we do have water naturally coming out of that. And then I click done again. And so now I have my wetland area. If I want to show an entire region that has marsh or swamp, my line features I use for my tributaries, and then I use the point features to show where my springs are. And once I am done adding features to my map, I can click place map. And this map now becomes a feature in my story map. Here's the legend, and I can highlight different parts of the legend and zoom to those parts. I can close the legend, and I can also zoom in or zoom out if I want to get a big picture. And that is how you add a map, a modified map, to your story map.